achieve the requirement of decoupling the unloading and the good receipt step. And this is what we are talking about here is called a simple unloading. It is also possible in the complex unloading, but the sequence of event is different. The specific requirement here is that whenever you receive physically, you have received the pallet or the boxes, then you want to capture the status in the system as unloading is done, but you do not want to capture the good receipt step, because once you post the good receipt, it will create certain subsequent activities in the warehouse, as well as you will be legally bounded to pay the vendor depending upon your payment term. So if it is a immediate the payment term you're using is immediate, then once you post a good receipt, the Miro step or the invoicing will come into the picture. So this decoupling, I would recommend that it should not be used in the scenario when there is a larger time gap between unloading and good receipt and you are receiving the product from the vendor. Because if you physically receive the vendor product from the vendor, you should be posting the good receipt, to capture that you have physically received it and legally the product is under your custody, and then the vendor can be paid, because there are payment terms which will come into play, right? 4 days payment within 4 days. So the time span will start once you post a good receipt. Now, coming back to this requirement wherein we want to physically, once we receive the product physically or the pallets physically in our warehouse, we want to capture the unloading step, but we do not want to post the good receipt. So I would say suggest that mostly it will make sense if you are receiving the product from another warehouse or another plant in your organization. Now, if this business requirement is met, then you can propose this functionality if they to decouple unloading and good receipt. Now, another requirement is that if, let's say, the warehouse is not interested in tracking the movement of the boxes or pallet from door to the staging area. So this technically, this particular tracking is captured via the step called unloading in your process oriented storage control. Now, this is an example of POSC wherein there is no unloading step. As you can see, the first step we can see is start with VS is VAS. VAS, there are two VAS activity which happens once you receive the product, and then they gets moved from staging area to VAS work center, and then again to a subsequent VAS work center, and then you do put away. It's not necessary that you need to have step 1 and 2. You can have directly even the put away step in simple unloading. Now, the only catch here is that if you want to achieve this requirement of decoupling, then you should not have the step for unloading, which is IB01. Now, if these prereqs can be satisfied or can be met, then I would suggest to go with it. Otherwise, not. Now, it's not that in the warehouse you can have either simple unloading or complex unloading. You can use both, right? So uh, there could be some scenario wherein wherein it makes sense to use simple unloading, and there could be another scenario wherein complex unloading makes sense, wherein you cannot in complex unloading you cannot decouple them. uh, the only catch is that you have to post in complex unloading. You can kind of do the unloading step separately, but the good receipt has to happen. But here the main requirement is that we do not want to capture the good receipt. So just to jot it down, for simple unloading, the events or the sequence will be you will first unload it using the RF, then you will post good receipt, and it can happen separately, right? They are not clubbed together. But for complex unloading, if you will follow the same sequence, you will unload. The moment you will do unload, GR happens automatically. You cannot skip it. Now, if you switch the events in complex unloading, first you will post the good receipt. Then yes, it is possible to unload the product separately, right? And as I said, the main requirement in our scenario, what we are talking about here is when we do unloading, we do not want to post GR. And that is not possible in case of complex unloading. And complex unloading only comes into picture if your POSC has the step for unloading, which is to track the movement from door to staging area. So based on your business requirement, and I also mentioned that you can choose to have both, right? So based on your business requirement, then you can switch to either of the functionality. Now let's jump into the system and see how is it possible. Now, and in both the scenario, we will be able to use the RF gun. So I've already created an inbound delivery. So the initial status will be for good receipt and unloading will be not started. Now I've already done the unloading for 1 or 2 HU, so it is coming as the status is coming as partially completed. Now, even if the status for unloading will be fully completed, you'll notice that the good receipt status will still be not started. So, which proves out the point that we can decouple the good receipt and unloading step, given the prereqs are met, which I already spoke about. Now, before we jump into that, what we want to track here is that if you can notice here that the goods movement bin is coming as staging area. So we are not receiving a door, right? Because we do not want to track the movement of the handling unit that first we'll receive at the door, and then we will move it over to the staging area, which will happen via warehouse task. And for that to track this goods movement or the product movement or the handling unit movement within the warehouse, we have this step provided by SAP, which is called as unloading. So that POSC step we are not gonna utilize, right? Now, as per the POSC, what we are going to do achieve here in the in terms of the systematic movement of the handling unit, that we will receive the product at the staging area, and then from staging area it will move subsequently to the VAS work center. Now in my scenario there are two VAS work center, and then the put away happens, but we won't be seeing the whole process, so because we just want to understand how to decouple unloading and the good receipt step. Now what you need to do is, once the inbound delivery is distributed from S4 to EWM. Now to carry out the this particular step, so this is a navigation path, you do not require any warehouse task to be created. If you want to, again, talking about the simple unloading process where we want to decouple the unloading and good receipt step, first the unloading will happen and then the subsequently we will post the good receipt, right? So unlike this complex unloading, wherein if you want to use the RF gun to carry out the unloading step, you need a unloading warehouse task. For simple unloading process, you do not require that, and we will understand why we don't require it. The purpose of a warehouse task is to show that there is where exactly you are picking the product from and where exactly are you moving. In this case, for the simple unloading, we are not tracking the movement of goods. All we are going to do here is propose a status update in the system that we have physically received the product in our warehouse. That's it. We are not tracking its movement, that it has been received at the staging area or at door or wherever it may be, right? That's not the purpose of this functionality. Now, uh, there is a good thing that you can, even irrespective of fact whether you're using in simple unloading or complex unloading, you can still use the same transaction. Now, this is the delivery number. Now I don't have a scanner or the handling unit barcode, so I will use the system information. So you can see that I've already received 2 boxes. Now this is the first box which I'm receiving, or not exactly receiving, I'm updating just the unloading status. So the good receipt won't happen in the background. So once this is done, now we'll select the second box. So this is done. Now system is asking whether you want to confirm that it is fully done. So we'll mark the checkbox yes. Now systematically we wanted to see, right, that the product has we have physically received the product, or physically the product has arrived in the warehouse. Now even though the unloading step is done, you can see the good receipt is not yet done, right? And that is where I said that I don't think it makes sense to use this functionality if you're receiving the product from vendor, because if you have really received the product in the warehouse, you should create a liability and the product should be booked into your books so that the payment can be done to the vendor. Now, so where can we see the status, right? So we can see the status even in warehouse monitor. If you go to the node for the handling unit, there is a status, you can display it over there. Uh, Also, if I'll navigate for the box, so I'll show you where exactly it gets captured in the system that the box has been unloaded. Now, if we double click on the box or the pallet, So you can see the system status. So originally when you receive a handling unit, when you receive a inbound delivery in EWM, the status will be plan. But once you use the RF gun and carry out the unloading step, utilizing the simple unloading process, the status gets updated here. And the same status, then you can use the warehouse monitor to track the inbound deliveries which have been unloaded in your warehouse, and they are not the good receipt is not yet done. So if I jump to the warehouse monitor, we will not going into the detail, but you can use this particular node. So you can use the system status. So using this field, you can filter out the handling units which have been unloaded. Now going back to the delivery. So once you have unloaded all the handling units or the pallet associated with your inbound delivery, the next step would be to receive the product in your warehouse before you can move it to the VAS work center, etc. Right. So to carry out that particular step, then you will move over to the receiving option in RFUI. So you can see that once I have clicked on the post goods issue, system has updated the status. So you can see that the status, good asset status is also updated for the inbound delivery. So using this functionality or the simple unloading process, we can decouple unloading and the good receipt step. And we can in fact post update this unloading status first, and then later on we can do the good receipt step. And this is not possible. You cannot carry out the same these steps in the same sequence if you're using the complex unloading process. However, it is all still possible that you first post the good receipt and then you can subsequently carry out the unloading step. So that is also possible. So you can use probably a PPF, whenever the delivery, based on the events. So whenever your inbound delivery is created, then you can do a auto GR. Suppose you're receiving from your manufacturing unit to distribution center, and they are in the same vicinity, etc. So depending upon your business scenario, you can set it up like that, wherein you can decouple good receipt and unloading using the complex unloading process, but then you still have to post a good receipt first.